Most women do not realize how much power lies in their silence. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of mastery. Have you ever wondered why the man who once seemed so sure of himself, so unshakably confident, suddenly becomes restless when you no longer chase his attention? It is because something primal is stirred within him, something older than love songs and modern romance, something buried deep in the collective unconscious. In every woman rests an archetype, the queen, the enchantress, the muse, and yes, the shadowed feminine who refuses to be tamed. When you stop begging for validation, when you refuse to explain yourself or plead for scraps of affection, you awaken that ancient power. This is not manipulation. This is not a trick. It is alignment. The soul remembering its worth. Carl Jung once said that what you resist not only persists, but grows stronger. The same is true in relationships. The harder you try to hold a man, the more he resists. The moment you release him, he feels the gravity of your absence. Why? Because men are drawn to what they cannot fully possess. The feminine mystery, when honored, becomes a mirror to his own unconscious, forcing him to confront what he fears, what he secretly desires, and what he cannot control. Imagine this: a woman who does not rush. She moves through life like flowing water, patient and unyielding. She does not demand love. She embodies it. She does not beg for loyalty. She commands it by existing as someone worth being loyal to. When you understand this, when you step into this quiet strength, men feel it without words. You become a force, not by trying harder, but by waiting without fear. But why is waiting so powerful? Because waiting is not passive. It is active restraint, an act of supreme self-control in a world addicted to instant gratification. It is the refusal to let your loneliness bargain away your value. In Jungian terms, it is individuation, becoming whole within yourself, so you no longer seek someone to complete you. And when you no longer need completion, you become magnetic. The woman who knows her worth does not compete for attention. She lets others exhaust themselves in their desperation while she remains still watching, learning. A man's inconsistency no longer rattles her because she has confronted her own shadow, that part of herself that once believed she was unworthy of being chosen. Instead of grasping at affection, she holds herself like a sacred temple. She becomes the sanctuary rather than the seeker of shelter. And here lies the paradox. The less you chase, the more he notices. The more you cling, the quicker he escapes. A man is not truly captivated by beauty alone, nor by kindness alone, but by the woman who has faced her own darkness and emerged unshaken. The woman who has cried her tears, burned through her illusions, and built a life so rich that love is a gift, not a lifeline. Men feel it in their bones when they meet such a woman, the one who waits, not because she has no options, but because she refuses to settle for a counterfeit connection. She knows that intimacy without respect is hollow. That passion without purpose is just noise. She has learned through trial and heartbreak that nothing valuable comes from impatience. You have felt this, haven't you? The urge to send that text, to beg for clarity, to force the outcome, because uncertainty feels unbearable. That anxiety is the shadow whispering, "You are not enough. on your own. But what happens when you don't listen? What happens when you sit with the discomfort, breathe through the silence, and refuse to let fear dictate your actions? You grow. You harden in the best way, not with bitterness, but with wisdom. This kind of waiting is not the waiting of a powerless girl hoping to be rescued. It is the waiting of a sovereign woman who knows she is already whole. When you cultivate this energy, you cease to measure yourself by who desires you. You stop asking, does he like me? And begin asking, is he worthy of me? The frame shifts. You become the chooser rather than the chosen, the prize rather than the pursuer. Every moment of patience sharpens your intuition. You begin to see through false promises, empty words, and shallow flattery. You no longer crave attention. You discern character. And when the right man approaches, he will not be confused by your stillness. He will be compelled by it, because true masculine strength recognizes true feminine power, and it bows to it without resentment. The woman who waits with strength does not simply sit idle. She refines herself in the fire of solitude. This waiting is not an empty pause. It is a sacred transformation. While others rush to fill their loneliness with shallow connections, she builds depth. She learns to hear her own heartbeat again, to feel her intuition speak with clarity rather than fear. In this space, the soul whispers truths that are often drowned out by noise and desperation. What men rarely understand, and what women often forget, is that the feminine is not meant to chase. The feminine is meant to attract, to draw forth what is aligned by embodying something higher than simple desire. This is not about arrogance, nor about testing anyone. It is about living with such rooted self-worth that only what is true can reach you. Jung would call it the integration of the shadow, no longer running from your wounds, no longer projecting them onto lovers who cannot heal them. When a woman integrates her shadow, she stops mistaking attention for affection and control for care. She no longer falls for intensity dressed up as intimacy. She no longer seeks validation in the fleeting gaze of men who have not done their own work. Instead, she becomes dangerous in the most beautiful way, untouchable by games, immune to manipulation. And here is where the dynamic shifts. The man who thought you would always wait around, who expected you to bend to his inconsistency, suddenly feels the loss of your energy. Your silence becomes deafening to him because it mirrors his own emptiness. He begins to chase not because you schemed to make him chase, but because your refusal to cling forces him to confront his own nature. He realizes that you are not standing still out of weakness. You are standing still out of choice. Do you feel how rare this is in our time? In a world of constant messages, instant replies, and cheap validation, a woman who does not rush is unsettling. She is a disruption to the predictable rhythm of superficial romance. When you hold this line, when you choose to wait rather than compromise, men feel both fear and admiration. They sense that you are not simply another name on their list. You are the standard they must rise to meet. This power, however, is not cold or cruel. It is not about punishing anyone. It is about embodying the quiet, unshakable truth. I am enough. I am whole. I am not afraid to be alone. Seneca once said that he who is content with himself is never truly alone, for he carries his own company. So it is with the empowered feminine. She does not wait for someone to bring her worth to her doorstep. She waits for someone who recognizes what is already there. In this stillness, you learn the difference between solitude and loneliness. Loneliness begs, solitude chooses. Loneliness fears being unseen. Solitude delights in seeing itself. This is why men cannot resist a woman grounded in her solitude. She is not looking to be saved. She is looking to be met. And only a man of substance, a man who has faced his own shadow, can meet her there without shrinking back. The woman who cultivates this power does not speak of revenge, does not try to make him see. She does not pose to provoke, nor does she perform to prove. She has nothing to prove. Her very existence is the proof. And the man who cannot rise to meet her is quietly dismissed, not with anger, but with indifference. This indifference is not heartlessness, it is wisdom. It is the understanding that love is not meant to be begged for. That connection is sacred and must not be rushed. By refusing to move faster than fate, by choosing to trust the unfolding of time, she sends a message louder than any words could speak. I do not need you to choose me. I choose myself first. This is the heart of the feminine archetype in its fullness. The queen who does not chase her throne, the muse who does not plead for attention, the lover who does not beg to be loved. And in this sacred waiting, something extraordinary happens. Men who are shallow drift away, while men who are deep step forward, unable to resist the gravity of your presence. Her stillness becomes a mirror, reflecting back to every man the truth of his own soul. The shallow grow restless and retreat, while the strong grow quiet and lean closer. In this way, waiting is a test, not of the woman, but of the man. It is an alchemy of presence. You no longer chase, you watch. You observe how he behaves in the silence, how he handles not being fed a constant stream of your energy. Does he honor the space, or does he try to break it? Does he rise in patience, or does he vanish into his own distractions? A woman who has faced her shadow will not mistake absence for abandonment. She has walked through nights so dark that no man could guide her. And in that darkness, she learned to guide herself. Her pain taught her patience, and her patience became power. When you hold back from rushing to fill the void, you allow the wrong ones to eliminate themselves. And you make room for the right one to step forward with clarity. This waiting is not cold detachment. It is the warm, grounded energy of a woman who trusts her own worth more than she trusts someone else's promises. She does not cling to timelines because she understands that real love is not born in urgency. She does not fear being overlooked because she knows that what is truly hers will never pass her by. This is the feminine principle at its highest expression, receptive, discerning, and unwavering. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The same is true in matters of the heart. You have no control over how quickly a man will recognize your value, but you have absolute control over how much you honor it yourself. You may not decide when he steps forward, but you can decide never to step backward into the arms of of someone who does not deserve you. This is the crucible of transformation, learning to bear the weight of your own worth without dropping it just to make someone else comfortable. Many women lose themselves by trying to speed up what should never be rushed. They confuse movement with progress, attention with affection, intensity with intimacy. But a woman who has done her inner work, who has embraced her shadow instead of denying it, no longer falls for the counterfeit. She sees the difference between a spark that burns quickly and a fire that endures. In this way, waiting becomes its own kind of initiation. It is not about withholding affection to manipulate. It is about aligning with a deeper truth. Every time you resist the urge to chase, you strengthen the muscles of your soul. You learn to sit inside your own longing without letting it control you. You discover that the fear of being alone cannot kill you. It only exposes the places in you that need healing. And when those places heal, you are no longer ruled by fear. The woman who embodies this energy is not angry at men. She does not need to be. Her power does not come from punishing anyone. It comes from knowing that she cannot be bought cheaply. She does not need to raise her voice because her silence says everything. A man feels it. Her time is precious. Her presence is rare. Her energy is not freely given to those who do not honor it. And so she waits, not passively, but with purpose. She refines her mind, tends to her soul, builds her life so rich and full that love becomes a complement rather than a completion. She does not sit by the window hoping for someone to arrive. She walks through her days as though she is already whole, because she is. And that wholeness, that calm assurance, becomes magnetic. What happens then? Men who once treated you like an option suddenly feel the loss of access. They see that you no longer orbit their world. You have built a world of your own, and only those strong enough to walk into it with respect will dare approach. This is the hidden beauty of waiting. It filters without effort. It draws to you only those who are worthy, while everything unworthy falls away on its own. In that quiet separation, something else begins to happen. The woman who waits grows luminous in her own eyes, no longer staring at the door for someone to arrive. She starts to see herself clearly. The frantic need for validation fades, and in its place rises a calm, grounded confidence. Her reflection is no longer distorted by the opinions of men who cannot even face their own shadows. She becomes sovereign. This sovereignty terrifies the unprepared. A man who thrives on control, who feeds off constant reassurance, cannot stand before such power. Her silence exposes him. Her patience reveals whether his interest was genuine or just a passing appetite. When she stops giving him easy access to her time, her energy, her softness, he must either grow into a man worthy of her or fade back into the crowd where he belongs. Jung believed that every human relationship is a mirror, a projection of the unconscious. The masculine seeks the feminine not just for love, but to meet the parts of himself he has not yet claimed. And when the feminine refuses to collapse herself to keep his approval, he faces his own void. Your strength, your refusal to chase is not cruelty. It is medicine. It forces him to see whether he is truly capable of depth or merely addicted to novelty. Think of the ancient queen archetype. She does not leave her throne to beg for someone to stay in her court. She waits. And by waiting, she learns who is loyal, who is passing through, and who is strong enough to stand beside her. This is not arrogance. It is discernment. When you embody this energy, you stop asking, will he choose me? And begin asking, does he deserve access to me? This waiting is active. It is a sculpting of the soul. While others chase love as if it were running away, you cultivate yourself until you no longer feel lack. You are no longer a flower desperate for a gardener. You are the entire garden, blooming whether anyone notices or not. The man who recognizes this does not see you as a convenience. He sees you as rare. And what is rare is never rushed. But to reach this place, you must walk through discomfort. The silence will tempt you. The unanswered message will whisper that you are not enough. The gap between connection and commitment will stir every old wound you thought was gone. This is the shadow rising, that deep, ancient fear of abandonment, rejection, unworthiness. If you can face it without flinching, if you can sit in that fire without grasping for a quick escape, you will burn away every illusion that once held you hostage. Men feel this fire in you. They may not have the words for it, but they sense it. The difference between a woman who waits because she has no choice and a woman who waits because she is a choice. The first is desperation. The second is power. When you reach this second place, you no longer negotiate your worth in the currency of male attention. You stop performing. You stop pleading. You stop dimming yourself to stay convenient. And then something extraordinary happens. You begin to attract not just attention, but reverence. Men who once played games approach you with respect. Men who lack depth turn away because your energy exposes them. And men who are whole, who have walked through their own shadows, recognize you as an equal, not a conquest. This is why the wait is worth it. Because every day you refuse to settle, every moment you choose solitude over counterfeit love, you are not losing time. You are saving it. You are saving your soul from being entangled with those who cannot see you. You are building a foundation so strong that when the right man arrives, he does not find a woman exhausted from chasing, but a woman radiant, rested, and ready to meet him as an equal. The waiting woman becomes unshakable. She no longer asks when love will arrive. She knows that love worthy of her will not require her to beg, rush, or perform. And in that knowing, she is already free. Freedom begins to take root in the heart of the woman who waits with strength. She no longer watches the clock, no longer fears that love will pass her by, because she has learned the great secret: love is not a prize to have to be won. It is a reflection of what you have already become. The more whole you are, the less you chase fragments, the more peace you embody, the less chaos you invite. This woman does not sit idle in her patience. She cultivates her mind like a garden. She tends to her passions, builds her dreams, strengthens her soul. She refuses to put her life on pause for a man who has not yet chosen his own direction. And this, paradoxically, makes her irresistible to men of substance. A man who has walked through his own darkness, who has wrestled with his ego and faced his fears, does not seek a woman who will shrink to fit his insecurities. He seeks the one who meets him in strength, the woman who does not need him, but chooses him. Epictetus taught that true freedom comes when you desire nothing outside of your control. This waiting is that freedom in motion. You cannot control who loves you, when they will commit, or whether they are ready for depth. But you can control yourself. You can decide never to betray your own soul in exchange for temporary comfort. You can decide that your energy is sacred, your heart is sacred, and only those who approach with reverence may enter. This energy is felt more than it is spoken. A man senses it when he realizes that no amount of sweet words will sway you if his actions do not align. He senses it when your silence carries more weight than your approval once did. You do not explain yourself. You do not justify your standards. You simply live them. And that quiet certainty forces every man who encounters to measure himself. This is why patience is power. Not because waiting makes a man chase you. That is a shallow misunderstanding. But because waiting makes you unshakable. You are no longer governed by impulse, by fear, by loneliness. You have mastered yourself, and mastery is magnetic. In Jungian language, you have individuated. You are no longer seeking completion in another person because you have become complete within yourself. And in that wholeness, love flows naturally instead of being forced. The feminine in her fullness is not needy, not anxious, not grasping. She is receptive, discerning, like still water that reflects only what is true. She does not distort herself to hold anyone's attention. She lets people reveal themselves, and she chooses accordingly. When you embody this archetype, the queen, the sage, the lover who knows her own value, you no longer ask, am I enough? You ask, as he aligned with where I'm going? And so the woman who waits does not lose time. She saves it. She saves herself from heartbreak caused by rushing into the arms of men who cannot hold her. She saves herself from being scattered, drained, diminished. She learns that solitude is not punishment. It is preparation. Each quiet evening alone strengthens her. Each moment she resists the urge to beg proves her power to herself. Men feel this shift like gravity. They may not know why they can't forget you, why your absence feels louder than another woman's presence. But deep down, they sense that they are no longer dealing with someone who can be swayed by cheap attention. They are dealing with someone rare, someone who would rather walk alone than walk with the wrong man. And when the right man arrives, he will not run from this energy. He will not be intimidated by your silence or your strength. He will feel at home in it, because true masculinity does not fear true femininity. It is drawn to it. The woman who knows this truth no longer counts the days, no longer begs for reassurance. She moves with an inner stillness that says, I am not waiting for love to give me life. I am already alive. And that life, that light becomes impossible to ignore. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.